Well, hey y'all, and welcome to the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch. I'm Susan, your hostess, and I'm trying to talk, but I've got this horse in my throat, or my frog in the throat. Today we are beginning the hashtag 1896 Fannie Farmer recipes. I am using the Fannie Farmer Cookbook 12th edition. All the recipes, or the majority of the recipes, are scratch cooking. If you don't have this kind of a cookbook, you can look up Fannie Farmer recipes on Pinterest, or you can find her original cookbook from 1896, which was the Boston Cooking School Cookbook. It is in the archives online, and you can download that. This is an open collaboration. It is hosted by me, the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch, and also Luann's Kitchen. I had decided not to do a live today because you can hear how bad my throat is. But this cookbook is the 12th edition. There are several editions out there that you can purchase online. It is the ultimate cookbook, in my personal opinion. We're going to do a recipe found on page 326. It is the barbecued lima beans. We're going to do this as much from scratch as possible. So let me show you the ingredients. Modern convenience ingredients would be the Worcestershire sauce and prepared mustard. It calls for lima beans, dry lima beans. So these are dry lima beans. I picked these up from Azure Standard, and I will put a link to them in the description box below if you're interested in purchasing these in bulk. It calls for half an onion, and it calls for a large clove of garlic. It calls for salt pork. Well, I've got some pre-cooked bacon that I have cooked, and I'm going to use that in its place. It calls for pureed tomatoes. I don't have any pureed tomatoes on hand, but I do have some home canned tomatoes that I can make into a puree. It also calls for chili powder. So I've got chili powder. It calls for a dark brown sugar. Well, I don't have a dark brown sugar on hand, but I do have organic sugar that I can mix with a little bit of molasses to make my dark brown sugar. And it calls for apple cider vinegar, and I'm very, very proud of my apple cider vinegar that I made a couple of years ago. This was made in 2021. And you can see the mother on my apple cider vinegar. So this is an active apple cider vinegar that I have here. Let's get in the kitchen and get started. I hope that my voice doesn't offend you or bother you, but I do need to get this video done, so please bear with me. Now, if you want to participate in this collaboration, it is an open collaboration, you would use the hashtag 1896 Fannie Farmer recipes and tag Luann's Kitchen and the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch in your title and in your description. There is a playlist on both Luann's Kitchen and in my playlist for this collaboration. Use both of those playlists in the description box below. If you have a family recipe that is a scratch recipe, you can use that in place of the Fannie Farmer recipe book. Just make sure that you put it in the description box that you're using a family recipe. This is a full tutorial recipe because it's scratch cooking. I'm going to take my dry beans and I'm going to measure out 1 cup of dry beans. These are dry butter beans. And I'm going to sort them, rinse them, and because of modern conveniences like Instant Pots, I'm actually going to cook my beans in the Instant Pot. And then I'm going to transfer them over to the stove to finish the cooking process. And so simply to sort, you're going to go through your beans and transfer them from hand to hand, and just double check to make sure there's no stones or bad beans in your product. After all, we want to feed our family the very, very best that we possibly can. Okay, I've got my beans here. I'm going to add some water and then I'm going to rinse them real quick. I'm going to add them into my Instant Pot. This recipe says it will serve 4, so we're going to go with that. I am going to add in water to soak my beans overnight. You would normally soak them overnight, then rinse them very well, and then start cooking with them. So I have set my Instant Pot to pressure for 14 minutes. That should have them partially cooked, if not fully cooked. And we're going to go from there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and prep my onion and my garlic so that when I get ready to put everything into the pot, it is ready to go. The recipe is as follows. 1 cup of dry lima beans that has been soaked overnight, rinsed, and then you will add enough water to cover well and boil the beans for 1 hour or until they're tender. You're going to drain and put into a bean pot or casserole and reserve the liquid. This should go into your oven. So you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You're going to cook the salt pork in a skillet until golden. I'm skipping that step because my bacon's already cooked. I'm going to add the onion and garlic and cook until the onion is soft. Stir in the remaining ingredients. 1/2 cup of reserved bean liquid and simmer for 3 minutes and pour over beans and bake for 45 minutes. So, because this only calls for 1/2 an onion, I am going to only use 1/2 of the onion. The other 1/2 I will chop up and put into my refrigerator or freezer and save it for later. But I always save the skins off my onions and vegetables because I make a vegetable broth with them. So we're going to get this chopped up. I also leave the root stock on. That keeps you from crying. So remember to leave the root stock on there. And I'm going to set that over there. I've got my onion cut. I'm going to flip this around because I'm going to cut one of my garlic bulbs. Okay, I've peeled my piece of garlic and I smashed it. And we're going to mince this as finely as we can mince it. And so I've got my minced garlic right there. I'm going to set this aside and we're going to move on. So we're just going to move this over because we have to get our sugar turned into a dark brown sugar. The recipe only calls for 2 teaspoons of the dark brown sugar. So I'm only going to use a tablespoon or 2, and then I'm going to leave it into this container. Maybe I'll do 3 tablespoons. And I'm going to use just a little bit of my molasses until I come up with the right amount. So I'm using my little, just a pinch spoon. We're going to set that over here. And we're just going to mix that in here. Until I feel it's dark enough. I'm going to open up my tomatoes. And I'm going to drain off the juice. Let me grab the cup for this. Okay, I've drained the juice off my tomatoes and I'm just going to puree them really quick. It's going to be loud. And they're pureed. Okay, into this dish, I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of prepared mustard, 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, 1/4 cup of the pureed tomatoes, 1 tablespoon of cider vinegar, and 2 teaspoons of brown sugar. So I'm going to start with the chili powder since it's a dry ingredient. We need 1 teaspoon of prepared mustard, I need 2 teaspoons of the brown sugar. So 1 and 2. And I'm going a little generous on that. And 1/4 cup of the tomato puree. We also need a teaspoon of Worcestershire. I'm going to guesstimate because I threw my spoon away. And a tablespoon of the apple cider vinegar. And I'm just going to give that a good stir. Unit off, I'm going to release the steam off this. I'm going to get my beans out of here. I'm going to strain them. We're going to put them in a pot in just a moment, but we're going to make our sauce and then we're going to get them in the oven. We would normally have a little bit of fat in here, so I'm going to add a little bit of butter fat. So I'm going to let that melt down just a tad. We're going to, we would be browning our bacon. I'm going to go ahead and break this up, or salt back, whatever you're using. And you would use about 1/8 a pound of salt pork that has been browned. So I'm just going to grab a handful of this and throw it in the pot. Well, I might as well just use it all. because there's not much left in that bag. We're going to get this melted, and then we're going to add in our chopped onion. I'm adding in the onions, and I'm going to saute them for a couple of minutes until they begin to soften. I will add in the garlic in just a moment. You don't want to add your garlic in too soon because you do not want your garlic to burn, and you're only going to cook the garlic for about a minute. So I'm stirring the pot, getting it ready to add in the garlic. There goes the garlic into the pot, and I'm going to briefly stir that, and then I'm going to add in the barbecue sauce and allow it to cook for 3 minutes, simmering. Next, I'm going to add in the reserved bean juice, about a half a cup. Okay, this has been simmering for 3 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and just pour it over my beans. It smells amazing, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and add a little more liquid to this. I don't want my beans to dry out in the oven. We're going to cover the casserole. We're going to put it in the oven for 45 minutes. All right, it's been 45 minutes, and I pulled it out of the oven. You can tell it looks like baked beans now. The extra liquid did not hurt it a bit. You probably leave a little bit more liquid in them. Yummy. So I'm going to give this a taste test just to see how it is. To me, it needs a little bit more, maybe the mustard and a little more of the tomato sauce to make it more of a barbecue flavor, but it's not bad. The first time I ever had this was up in Pennsylvania. It was a Pennsylvania Dutch dish of the barbecued lima beans. It's not like your it's not like your store-bought barbecue, but it does have a little bit of a barbecue flavor to it. I might add some liquid smoke to it next time, or maybe cook it out on a grill with a cookout. It would be great. This is hashtag 1896 Fannie Farmer Recipes, hosted by Luann's Kitchen and the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch. This collaboration will end on December the 30th of 2024. I hope that you will jump on the bandwagon and try some scratch cooking for yourself. May you be fully blessed, and thank you again for watching.